Hey, good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for September 14th. 2020. My goodness, it's hard to believe we're already halfway through this month, and we have had some considerable volatility to deal with. This morning, that volatility continues. Over the weekend, there was a considerable amount of business news, buyout news, and things like that going on. And that has inspired the bulls higher this morning. They're all excited. Anytime we get big buyout news, it seems to kind of inspire the market. And there were several reports on that sort of thing this weekend. So this morning we're seeing the bulls push back, and we had a pretty good hold of support on Friday. This is Friday here with a little bit of a bounce. We bounced up. We pushed down toward that 50-day moving average, but we ended up bouncing by the end of the day, and that's inspired those bulls higher. So we're looking at a substantial gap up this morning. One thing we're going to want to pay attention to. First off, if I draw this trend line here, notice that we have created a little bit of price resistance right there in the chart. We also have some price resistance here in the diamonds right in that area. So we'll want to be watching this area as we rally this morning. Right now, the Dow futures are expected to gap up 250 points or more this morning, and so we'll watch that carefully right in here. We've kind of got the old double whammy up here of price resistance as we push back up, so keep in mind that's a possibility. Also keep in mind that this bullishness this morning could inspire a bit of a short squeeze or short rally, as everyone holding short positions over the weekend may be forced to sell to capture any of those gains as we gap up sharply here this morning. So watch that carefully as we approach those resistance levels. If we take a look at our moving averages here, notice that except for the price action technical damage, there has been no moving average technical damage here in the Dow. And with us continuing to hover up above that 50-day moving average, I still think there is the outside possibility that we will eventually test that as support. So watch that carefully on this bounce up this morning. Let's take a look at the SPY. Also found a few buyers on Friday afternoon bouncing back up. Let's take a quick look. We came right into that 50-day moving average, bouncing off of that. So that could be the inspiration, a little bit of the inspiration to help for this morning's rise in the market as well, holding that. I still think there is that outside opportunity that we could test that once again, so watch that carefully. And if we take a look at the price action of the chart, once again, we want to make note that we did break that uptrend, and we do have a bit of a price resistance right in here, and as we rally toward that, we'll want to respect that on that move back up. Now, certainly the low rates, the historic low rates, the favorable action of the FOMC favors upside in the market, but we do have these uncertainties that the market still has to deal with. First off, we heard this weekend COVID cases are starting to rise again with college back in season, or schools back going back. There is that concern from White House advisor that we may start seeing another surge in COVID cases. So kind of keep an eye on that. We also have a presidential election that is certainly adding some uncertainty to this market. So I wouldn't expect that we're just going to blast right on through and go right back up to these highs. Just kind of keeping in mind that a lot of these companies are pretty much priced to perfection. And it seems hard to believe, but remember, October is not that far away, only 15 days away, and we're going to be facing another earnings season coming soon. So going to be kind of an interesting situation as we approach that election this year. Let's keep an eye on that. On the technical side of things, we held that 50-day moving average holding up well, but let's just remember we do have some price resistance above, and that big black candle right there should add a little bit of concern. We're going to need to get that price back above that, prove that we can hold before we can really bring some solid bullishness back into the market. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ had a bit of a rough morning on Friday, breaking down and falling through its 50-day moving average. I know there were a lot of folks out there thinking that that wasn't going to occur, that everyone was just being very, very bullish here. But I think what's happened is people are realizing, or traders are realizing, that we have really priced the NASDAQ to perfection. And there may be some concern going forward with that. So we'll watch this closely. And let's just keep in mind that as we rally back up, and those bulls pushing hard this morning, that we've created a price resistance level in the chart that, once again, we're going to have to get back up there, prove to hold it before that really turns around and creates that bullish trend resumption that we're all looking for. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM also kind of an interesting chart, I think, here in the fact that it really hasn't participated in the selling. And when we started buying, and on buy days, it really didn't participate in that either. It's like IWM is just being largely ignored by traders. Kind of an interesting situation, but we do have a bit of a double top failure here on that chart, and this, of course, constitutes a lower high. So we'll want to pay attention to that. Even as we begin to rally back up, we have to recognize that we did break down some trend here in the chart, and we've kind of broken down some we've broken down some resistance in the chart as well, or some support, and we'll have to test that or recover that as support before we can really make that confident move back higher. So keep a close eye on that as we sort things out here this morning. Let's take a look at our VIX. VIX has been kind of an interesting situation for a while, and I've been mentioning this for some time, that we were rallying, but VIX really wasn't breaking down like you would expect it to. So we broke this downtrend here in the VIX, held it as support, rallied up really strongly as fear started to pick up, and now we're pushing back down here to test some support levels in the chart. If we take a look, I'm going to throw some lines on here that I've used before, and as you can see, we're coming back down in here to a little bit of a level of price support around that 25 handle here in the VIX. So let's watch that this morning. With the big gap up, we would expect that that would push down or break that 25 handle pretty substantially. We'll want to watch that because VIX has been acting pretty weird here lately. We get big price moves in the stock market, and yet the VIX not respond very much. So let's watch that closely. If this were to happen to catch some price support and rally back up, that could constitute a higher low in the VIX. So watch that carefully if that were to occur. Let's take a look at T21.22. T21 is the 4-week new high, new low ratio, and I just plot that with a line chart. And notice that when we're down here, in this area, we tend to bounce in the market, and that's what's happening this morning. We're down here in this bullish reversal zone, and this morning we're getting a substantial bounce. Now, one of the things this market just makes me nuts, and it's an all or nothing market. We can't have a normal price action move. We have to gap substantially in overnight price action. So we're going to gap up huge here this morning. What's going to be interesting is how far we bounce up out of this bearish reversal zone. Just keeping in mind that as we continue to push on higher, we will have resistance in the chart to deal with. So let's keep a close eye on this. Certainly this lends credence to the bounce that we were oversold in the short term, and a bounce was likely, but let's watch that closely and see if it really gains any legs. What we don't want to see, at least what I don't want to see, is I don't want to see us zoom all the way back up here with that incredible volatility. Let's get some decent price action in here instead of this whip back and forth. If we were to whip all the way back up here, I would suspect that we're going to whip all the way back down. So watch that closely. If we can start getting a slow and gradual rise, a little bit of consistency showing up in the price action instead of these big morning swings, then we have something that we can work with. So watch that close. Let's take a look at T2101. And I've been bringing this up for a while just because there is a bit of a concern with this. On the selling waves in the market, notice that we've rallied substantially here in T2101. That market breadth really came in strong on the selling wave. Let's see if it can maintain this downtrend break now. So we break the downtrend. If we see that buying wave coming in, we need to see some actual increase in breadth on buying to really inspire the markets higher. So let's watch that carefully and see if that can actually occur here as we begin to bounce. Let's take a look at our economic calendar for today. We don't have much going on here today on that economic calendar, but we definitely never want to ignore the possibilities on the calendar. So let's take a look. Notice there's really not much going on today. We got bond auctions and things like that going off. No real big deal to pay attention to, but as we start moving through the week, notice we have several important reports coming. And let's keep in mind that we have the beginning of the FOMC meeting tomorrow. So FOMC always throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into the works, and we could see the market after this gap up, we could see it kind of go a little bit stagnant, waiting for FOMC. Of course, we're all going to be hopeful and wishing that the FOMC decides they're going to throw a whole bunch more in operations to inspire the market higher. I don't know if that's going to occur. We're going to have to wait and see on that FOMC announcement. And then we have the Fed presser after that. So we'll want to just kind of stay on our toes and realize that that FOMC meeting is going to kick off. And it's not atypical for the market to just kind of stagnate as we wait for the FOMC. So we could get this gap up open and then kind of just die on the vine. So let's watch that close. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar today. Now we have about 14 companies reporting earnings today that we'll want to pay attention to. But I got to tell you, there really isn't anything of particular note in the earnings calendar today. I did come up with a couple. I only put one in the blog this morning, and that would be Lennar. Lennar will be reporting today. Looks like it's getting a little bit of a lift here this morning. I don't think it's reported yet. Building has been on a tear here recently, breaking through resistance levels, new record highs in charts, holding support levels, and that chance that this could push on through is pretty solid. So watch that closely, looking really good as a chart here. Lennar will be one of those today. Most of the stocks that are reporting are stocks like this morning. So an awful lot of little teeny tiny stocks reporting and unlikely to move the market today. Let's take a look at some stocks, however, that could be setting up for today. And before we do that, guys, if you could do me a favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you can be notified every time I post one of these videos. And guys, if you feel that these videos are worthy, if you feel that the video helped you, if you could please click that thumbs up button and also leave a brief comment, that helps us continue to grow. And I truly, truly appreciate those that do that. Now that I've kind of gotten a bit caught up here, I'll be answering those. I do read all the comments, and I want to say thank you to everyone who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me, and you guys humble me all the time with the kind words that you leave there. And always remember, please feel free to just click that link, grab the YouTube link, and share that video on your social media platform, and help us continue to grow here on the channel. I truly appreciate that as well. Let's take a look at some of these stocks, and remember that when I show a stock that may have some potential here in the chart, it is just part of the education I provide. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell any security. So keep that in mind and make sure you do your own due diligence. The way I trade may be significantly different from you, and every trader has to know their rules, their guidelines for trading. Don't blindly follow someone else's trade. Let's take a look at 3M. I've been keeping an eye on 3M in here and noticing, although it's been a little bit volatile overall, notice we've been rallying and we're testing some price resistance in this chart, and we've been holding up pretty well overall. Let's take a look at some of the drawings that I've placed on here, and you notice that I actually placed a price alert here on the chart. Anytime you see this bright pink line, you'll know that that's a price alert, and I do that so that everyone who sees my charts can see that I've got an alert there. We popped up through there on Friday and pulled back. Now, I'm typically not a buyer on Friday, but this morning I will be watching and maybe even considering a purchase here in 3M. This is a good strong dividend payer, and as you can see, breaking the downtrend. I'm not really after it so much for the dividend as I would be the upside move, but I like the pattern that we broke through this resistance, holding as support, and that potential for that upside move does exist. Another chart that I've kind of been keeping a close eye on here is Starbucks. Now, Starbucks broke through a fairly significant level of price resistance in the chart, and you can see if I pull that back, that price resistance runs back here quite a ways. Now, we do have resistance in the chart above, right in here, that we have to consider in this chart. And I do think there is still that possibility that Starbucks could rest and come all the way back over here toward this trend. Stocks like to move off of their trend, and it's not an uncommon pattern, particularly after such a big rally, to spend a little bit more time resting in that pattern. However, with the bullishness that we're seeing this morning, I've alerted right in here on this chart. It's also very possible that we pull back into here and we start that move early, actually increasing the trajectory of the trend. So watch that carefully. Starbucks looking pretty good. Been keeping an eye on Marriott, but Marriott really kind of struggled here the last few days in trading, pulling back. Nothing really particularly bearish in this chart, but nothing real inspiring here as well. As you guys know, I've been bringing up McDonald's, and McDonald's popped my alert right in here. It's holding up very, very well, continuing to move on higher. There's one of those examples, guys, where we just like to respond off of the trend. Notice how we come back to that trend and start moving higher, come back to that trend and start moving higher. One thing of particular note here in McDonald's is the resistance above. If we can break out of these resistance levels above here, we have blue sky up there. So let's watch this. We moved on through that resistance. We're pulling back. Let's watch for a little rest in here or consolidation and see if we can't move on through, breaking all-time highs here in that Mickey D's chart. Let's take a look. Procter & Gamble held up quite well through this sell-off. Now, you know, Procter & Gamble has had a lot of things going on here recently. This is all-time highs. Really, really strong chart. And let's make note that we've kind of rested and pulled back into this trend. So let's watch that opportunity for that maybe to perk on up and move higher. One to watch pretty closely. Also, take a look at Coca-Cola. And I've mentioned Coke several times here recently. Coke breaking through resistance in this chart, holding up quite well. I actually own this. I wouldn't be all that surprised if this has to rest or pull back into this trend still. But let's keep a close eye on that for that opportunity. Coke could perk on out of here and move on higher. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great profits in your trading. Hey, guys, keep in mind those COVID cases are starting to perk back up and kick up. Everyone, stay safe. Be careful out there. We don't want to see any more problems with that. I want you to be right back here every morning trading the market and watching these videos. So be safe, take care of yourselves. We'll see you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. I wish you all a fantastic day.